in today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the brand new Filofax Camden organizer. We're going to be going through it from the front to the back and looking at the different features of this planner and seeing what the pros and cons of it are. We're also going to take a look at those removable rings, and I'm going to say whether I think that they are worth it or not. So if you're interested in finding out more about this planner cover from Filofax, seeing more of the features, taking a closer look at it, then this is the video for you. Now, I have got my hands on the A5 size of the Camden organizer, and this is the olive color. There are currently 3 colors available: black, olive and mocha, which is a brown color, and there are currently 2 sizes, the A5, which I have here, and the personal size. And this is promised to be an eco-friendly, sustainable planner. We have a vegan leather cover. We've got lots of other sustainable features on the inside as well, but we're going to go through this starting on the outside and then working our way through from the inside left, the inside right, and looking closely at all of the different features. So starting on the outside with this gorgeous vegan leather, it is very, very soft. Now, I would say that there is probably some sort of padding in there, because as you can see, I don't know if the camera is picking this up, when I push my fingers down on it, there is a slight indentation. So it does feel very, very spongy. And I've brought a few of my other planners just to compare it. In comparison to the Saffiano, which I only have in the personal size, this is spongy, but to me this maybe isn't as soft feeling as the Camden. I've also got a Moterm here, so we're just going to grab it because I feel like this is probably the closest in terms of a leather cover. And again, this feels a little bit more stiff, like there is no padding in here, whereas this I can definitely feel a padding. So I feel like that's going to be the first thing that you notice when you get your hands on this planner, that there is a softness to how the cover feels. However, this is not a floppy cover, because if I open it up, this is actually stiffened on the inside. So if you're looking for that flippy floppy kind of vibe that you have with something like a Moterm, when you can really like bend this planner cover, or even the Filofax Malden, where again you can really bend that leather and get a nice aged effect to it, you're not going to be able to do that with this planner, because it is stiffened on the inside. Now, looking at the closure strap, we do have quite a nice size closure strap here. There's just one popper or snap, and you will notice that it is the charcoal colour that is also featured with the rings. Now, moving on into the inside of this planner. So there are those charcoal rings, and I hope that the light that I've had to switch on because it was a little bit dark in here is really doing justice of just how gorgeous these charcoal rings are. They coordinate with the snap closure. Now, you do have 6 card pockets on the inside left cover. This is a great opportunity for doing a little bit of a deco moment. And one thing I do appreciate about these pockets is that they start slightly further down than the crash bang. What have I got that's showing? Right, we'll just tuck that all the way. Now, I've got the Filofax architecture cover here, and for me I felt like the pockets started quite close to the top, which means you really can only put some cards in at the top there, whereas with the Camden the pockets are starting slightly further down, so you've got more of an opportunity to create quite a nice layering moment with some deco up here. Now, you do have 2 vertical slot pockets as well, and these are quite easy to access as well. They're not too close to the rings. Sometimes with these vertical slot pockets, they can be so close to the rings that it makes it very difficult to get things in and out. If I come back to my architecture, it has just one vertical slot pocket at the front, but at the back where I like to keep my window measuring templates, this pocket is so close to the rings that it's really hard to get things in and out of it. So I do appreciate that there's two pockets here at the front and that they are very easy to access. Moving over to the back very quickly, we do have two vertical slot pockets. However, one is to accommodate the removable rings, and then we have the one that we can actually use for putting things in. And again, I appreciate that because you can move these rings out the way a little bit, this is going to make it much easier for me to keep things back here and actually be able to slide them in and out, especially if they are. If I just grab a piece of A5 size paper. Especially if there is an A5 size sheet of paper, that is quite easy to access there and take things in and out. Now, one thing that I do love about the fact that this planner cover is stiffened and where the rings are positioned is that this planner can actually be folded back on itself. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would you do that? And yes, I do feel like this is going to cause stress and tension on the corners here, but my rationale for folding it back is that in my role as a home design consultant, I'm often walking around customers' home taking notes in my planner because I currently use the Filofax Architecture as my work project planner, and it's sometimes quite tricky to walk around like this taking notes. Yes, I feel like I could maybe fold this back on itself, but because of where the rings are and the stress that it's going to cause on the fold here, I don't really want to do that. So with this planner, I feel like I could maybe just about get away with it. And then if I'm walking around taking notes, it just makes life a little bit easier. Also, having that stiffened board means that I've got something firm to write on. So for me, this is definitely a plus. Also, because of where the rings are positioned, I do feel like this planner lays instantly flat without having to be trained. So that to me is another plus. Now, because it is stiffened, I feel like that may be the reason why we do not see a zippered pocket on this planner, because it's just going to make it a little bit more tricky to actually use the zipper pocket or put things in the zipper pocket without it damaging or leaving dents in the stiffened part, the cardboard that's inside there. So for me, I feel like that's a plus. But if you're someone who does like having the feature of a zipper pocket, say in the Moterm or in a Malden, it is quite handy to keep, say, spare inks or notepads, little bits and pieces in there, especially if you maybe take your planner on the go, then you may miss having a zipped pocket. However, you could always add in a clear plastic zipped pocket into the planner to combat that issue. Still looking at the inside cover features of this planner, we do have one pen loop. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed in this, in that with my planners, I do tend to have a pen, a highlighter, and a pencil. Now you can see here with the architecture, I do have two elasticated pen loops, so I can keep my pen and my highlighter to hand in those. And then I've just added a board within the planner with a additional stick-on pen loop where I can place my pencil. So that's probably going to have to be an option that I look to with this planner, so that I can actually carry the equipment that I need with me, especially for appointments. I'm often drawing, like quickly sketching a floor plan, and I do need to be able to have a pencil to hand within the planner rather than having to sort of arrive at someone's house and take out like my tape measure, my fabric sample books, a pencil case with all my writing utensils in there. It just becomes a bit much. So I'm going to have to think about ways in which I can make this a all-in-one carry-all situation for doing client meetings. Still looking at this pen loop, this is not elasticated. This is a full faux leather pen loop. As you can see, no elastication. Now, I feel like this one looks like quite a generous size, if I'm honest. I've had Maldens where the pen loop is so slim that it's virtually impossible to keep anything in it other than maybe a Tombow. But this pen loop looks like it is quite generous. So I'm just going to grab a fountain pen and show you that a chunky fountain pen can just about fit in there. It is very, very snug, however, not easy to slide in and out, but I feel like over time, because this faux leather is so soft and stretchy, it will give a little bit. I currently, with my work planner, have a Uni 1 pen. This isn't one of the chunky little stubby ones. This is a, I don't know, standard size one, but this fits in there very, very nicely indeed. And with the feature of the little clip here, I do not have to worry about losing this pen or it sliding out in my bag. I feel like that is a very good fit. If we just take a quick look at the Tombow, this I feel is maybe not so great because it is slightly more slim, the barrel, so it is going to sit right at the bottom here, and then it's overhanging out of the planner cover, so that's maybe not so great. This is where I might have to use an elasticated pen loop and position it, a stick-on elasticated pen loop, and position it to a slightly higher point so that the Tombow sits nicely within the planner cover. And then just quickly looking at this one is the Uni Kurutoga. Cannot pronounce that, sorry. That sits in there quite nicely. It is coming quite low. And then finally, let's just do a sanity check with a mild liner. Again, that's not too bad. I'm quite happy with that, but I feel like the best fit in this pen loop would be the Uni. That sits very, very nice there. And do I have, yes I do, the Sarasa clip. Again, a very nice fit. So that's a quick tour of the pen loop and what actually fits in there nicely. So I feel like we've covered everything on the outside and the inside in terms of features of pockets, pen loops, closures, what have you. So let's move on to these rings and then we'll talk about the inserts that come with this planner. So these are removable rings. This is something that I've not seen from Filofax before. However, I have seen removable rings on some inexpensive planners I've spotted on AliExpress. But the difference here is that these rings are actually on cardboard. I'm not sure how I feel about this. The ones that I've seen on AliExpress are actually on a thick plastic, so I feel like there's maybe more longevity with the plastic. With the cardboard, I'm concerned that once you have this planner filled up with inserts and there's a lot more stress, shall we say, on this whole system, that the rings might actually start causing the cardboard to give around the part where the rings are joined to it. Only time will tell on this, so I may have to report back maybe 6 months down the road after using this planner daily. And this planner, because it is replacing my current work planner, which as I said is the Filofax architecture, I do love this planner cover. It is a lot of fun, but excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. I've begun to notice that this planner cover is sustaining quite a lot of wear and tear, where I'm constantly taking it in and out of my work bag every single day, going to and from appointments. I've begun to notice that there's some black staining appearing here on the edges, which has come from the inside of my bag. I've also noticed that the elasticated pen loop on just on one side has started to fray. Admittedly, this is the one where I keep my main pen, so it gets a lot of use, so that could be why, whereas the highlighter, I use it not so much. So that's made me kind of sad. I had to pull the thread through and trim it down just to neaten it up. I've also noticed that in certain patches, this plastic material is, or faux, it's not really faux. I mean, it is meant to be like a faux leather, but it's not. It doesn't feel or look like leather. It is very plasticky. I've noticed that it is maybe beginning to degrade or rub, and especially there's parts here and on the seam here, it is beginning to crack. So I feel like if I continue using this planner for the rest of 2025, it will sustain so much wear and tear that it really will only be good for the bin at the end of the year. So I am going to switch to this and hope that it has a little bit more longevity to it. With that said, that means that this planner will be getting daily use. It will be going to and from work with me. It will be going in and out of my bag, going on a desk, being walked around people's homes, put down on the floor, picked up. It will take a lot of usage. So we will really see how well these rings hold up. Now, before I move on to actually talking more about the rings, as I said, they are removable, and I do have a Leuchtturm planner notebook with me here. So I just want to show that if you do remove the rings, a book does sit in there very, very nicely indeed. And oh my God, can we just take a moment? Like these colors, oh my gosh. I just love this pink and green together. And then I forget what color this is, but it's like a stone sort of putty color. This is just, I love this. Anyway, that was just a quick illustration that a book type notebook will sit in there very nicely indeed. So coming back to these rings on the cardboard, we will see how well this stands up. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. So we'll come back to that. One thing I have noticed with these rings, and the internal measurement is 30 millimeters. So just to confirm that, inside measurement at the widest part is 3 centimeters or 30 millimeters. Now, one thing I have noticed on these rings, they do have a nice open and close feature. They sound solid, but one thing I noticed is if I'm only pressing down slightly gently, and I'm sort of not giving it a good firm push, I notice that actually there's quite a lot of misalignment, especially on this last ring here on the left hand side. And that may be one thing that I'm going to have to keep an eye on, perhaps not open the rings too much. I do cut slits into my inserts, so hopefully that should minimize it. But other than that, when they are closed, there's no misalignment that I can see at the start of owning this planner. Again, this will be a time will tell kind of deal, I feel. Now, we do have inserts that come with this planner. It's shipped with some inserts inside, and then inside the pack it came with, or inside the box, sorry, outside of the planner, it came with this extra pack of refills. So what do you get inside the planner? You have this lovely cover page. There's no fly leaf. Now let me just see, because I've got I want to say this had a fly leaf, and I'm sure this had a plastic fly leaf as well as a paper fly leaf, and I may have put it in another planner, I don't know. Let's have a look at the architecture. Yeah, my architecture has, and that does say Filofax. So my architecture did come with a plastic or acetate fly leaf at the front before the actual, sorry if we go back, before the actual patterned paper fly leaf. However, in the Camden, it is just a paper fly leaf with this lovely quote at the front here, inspiring you to make the most of your day every day. So that's quite nice, and then you've got an opportunity to name it and claim it. And then we've got this little advert for the reminder app inserts and app. I've not personally tried this. I think it's a great idea, but for me it just feels like an extra thing that I've got to have on my phone and pushing notifications and all of that stuff. So I haven't actually tested this feature out yet. And then coming to the inserts, you have 8 sheets of dot grid paper. You have 8 sheets of plain paper, 8 sheets of lined paper, and it is a lovely muted grey colour for the lines and the dots. There's no coloured note sheets in here, which I kind of appreciate because I'm not a huge fan of the pink and the blue and whatnot lined paper sheets that you usually get in Filofax. In fact, do I have an example in here? Yeah, these sheets. I'm never use them. I'm not a huge fan, if I'm honest. So you don't get those in this planner. And then you've got 8 sheets for the to-dos, again in that muted grey colour. And then finally 8 sheets of contacts before we come to the fold out year at a glance. So you can see 6 months on one side, and then the other remaining 6 months on the other side. And this feels like a slightly thicker stock to the paper. This is maybe 80 GSM, or yeah, probably 80 GSM, whereas this feels more like, it's quite heavy actually. It feels more like 150 GSM. So it's like a very lightweight card in my opinion. It's not dated, so you could potentially use this for some sort of perpetual calendar that you can take from year to year, planner to planner. And then finally we have the cardboard page flag ruler. Again, this is quite thin, and I'm not sure how long this is going to last. It almost has cork kind of vibes to it. It's not cork, but there is a slight texture to this cardboard, so it does feel reminiscent of, say, a very thin piece of stiffened leather, or as I said, cork. And then you've got the pocket feature. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this pocket feature either, in that it is a paper pocket. However, because of how it's been folded, you can't actually fit or slot an A5 sheet in there. So this pocket really would be for smaller items. If we maybe fold this, it would sit much nicer in there. You could maybe create a nice little layering deco moment with this. You could jazz it up with some stickers. I think that that would be quite a nice feature. But if you saw in my unboxing, this is literally just a piece of thick paper or thin cardboard that has been folded in such a way to create a two-sided or two-pocketed insert. But it is literally just a slip-in moment. I could see this being quite nice with maybe some ollie clips to decorate the front here, maybe some bigger sheet here to create that gorgeous layering moment that I know decorative planners love. And then you could maybe place this at the front of the planner to serve as a way to protect your inserts. So for me, I really do love having some sort of acetate or plastic fly leaf here at the front, just to protect the corners of my inserts. You can see these are already curling up a little bit in places. And then at the back, I also would have my page lifter, again, just to stop the inserts from being crumpled around the rings and getting all scrunched up and awful. But yeah, you could put this at the front. Oh, this is where I'm now going to be opening and closing those rings and worrying about that misalignment that could happen on this bottom one. I hope it doesn't. No, let's not open and close. Let's go like this. Nice. Place that up the front. And there, that maybe creates a slightly nicer moment at the front if you like to do deco. Now, I think that was it for everything that I wanted to talk about inside the planner. Let's just come back to the additional pack of refills that you get within the box but not set up in the planner. So I received a week on 2 pages refill. I'm sorry, probably the light is shining on that quite badly. Let me try and get a good position for you. So this is a vertical week on 2 pages. It's an hourly schedule. It does have the reminder app feature on these inserts. I'm not going to open it up because I'm not going to use it, but they are dated for 2025 and they are just the standard. Let's open it so you can actually see, in case you want to, in case you decide that you will use these and you want to see what they're like. So we've got the bit of information, cardboard. So you've got a 2025 calendar in there. And then we've got the personal information, national information, and then we go into the inserts and just a close-up of the layout. We've got the little space at the top with different, I'm sure that relates to the national information at the front, or it should do, for the LVTH. What does that mean? I actually have no idea, but we won't waste time trying to figure that out on camera. But you do have the day numbers as well for the year, which is quite an interesting feature on these inserts. We also have the week number on the little mini calendar at the bottom of these inserts, as well as space to write any notes underneath, and then a little space at the top to do any important to-dos, although where you've got the holidays listed here, it doesn't leave you a lot of room to note down any other special events or important call-outs that you want to pop there. Now, shall we just pop these in the planner and see how bulky it ends up looking? I think we should, so that will give you a really good idea. Actually, hold on, because I want to be able to easily separate this stuff out when I've finished recording. So let's just pop that in there. Let's pop the page flag there so I know where that begins. And then we can pop these in. Oh, wrestling with it a little bit. Let's just pop that on the top. And there we go. That is how full the planner looks with the entire week on 2 pages year in there, as well as the inserts that it comes with. Not too bad. Now, I do want to do a quick measure on this so you can see. Now, are we going to be able to see this? If I maybe go this way. Okay, so we are measuring in at approximately just over 8 inches wide, and then the height, because I can't see it, I'm going to turn it that way. The height is about 9.5 inches, and then the depth is just under 2 inches. If I flip it over, I can tell you the centimeters very quickly. So height, we're looking at just under 24 centimeters or 240 millimeters. The width, we're looking at just under 210 millimeters, and then the depth of it, we're looking at around about 5 centimeters or 50 millimeters. Who do I think this planner is good for? Who do I think will probably not love it so much? Well, I feel if you are someone who needs a planner that you can take out and about with you to work, this could be a good solution, especially if you need something that is stiff enough to write on. As I said, this feels like it could be a very good proposition for me. If you're someone who likes to have options in terms of whether you are using a ring bound system for your planner inserts, or whether you want to have a notebook or perfect bound diary system for your planner, or you maybe even want to do some sort of bullet journal system but still have a nice cover. I feel like this could be a great option for you as well, because you can switch the rings out and just switch things up. If you're someone who does like to carry a lot of stuff, shall we say, with you, this may not be a great fit, just because you've only got the one pen loop and there's no zipper pocket in here. Also, if you're someone who loves a planner that has a little bit more give, that feels a little bit more flippy floppy, then this isn't going to be a great planner for you, because, as I said, it is stiffened. This is a perfect fit if you are someone who is very eco-conscious or you are vegan. This is meant to be a vegan leather. Now, whether that includes all of the glues, all of the other bits and pieces that are in here, I'm not sure, because yes, there are, even in something like paper, you could have inks that do contain ingredients that are from an animal source. So I don't know about that side of things, but I do know that the leather is meant to be vegan rather than just faux, because faux, again, it could still have chemicals that have been created with animal derivatives. With the current colour lineup being very autumnal vibes, with the olive green, the brown mocha and the black, it's a very serious selection of colours, so it may not be a great fit for you if you're someone who loves something that's quite girly and fun. However, you could feminize it somewhat with incorporating pinks. As I've shown before, this pink color is absolutely stunning against the green, so you could incorporate some little pink touches in how you decorate the planner. I feel the removable rings are a great feature in the A5 size, because there's probably more options for the different notebooks or planners, perfect bound planners that is, that you could put in here, in terms of there's a big selection of A5 options. However, with the personal size, I'm not sure what your options are going to be. I don't actually have a personal size of this planner with me, and I also don't really have any other types of hardbound notebooks where I could show how they compare to, say, a personal size, if you were thinking of purchasing it but purchasing the personal size but removing the rings to put other notebooks in there. So for me, I feel like maybe this removable ring system possibly doesn't work when it comes to the personal size. I feel that you've definitely got more options to really utilize this feature if you opt for the A5 size. Now, I'm really excited to get this set up as my work planner. I'm not going to do that today because I do need to get to work shortly, but I did want to do a full deep dive into all of the features of this planner. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but if there's something that you want me to sort of touch on a bit more, I am concerned about this bottom ring. Look, this is even just, yeah, I might have to do a little bit of training it the other way very carefully. That could start catching. Anyway, I'm meant to be closing out this video. If there is anything that you feel that I have missed from this review, just shout me out in the comments. I'll do my best to answer with text. If I do need to record another little touch on something that I've missed, I will do that once I've set this planner up. I do want to record another video showing you exactly how I've made this planner my own for my work planner. So it is going to be replacing this. As you can see, this planner is fully stacked. So we will really be putting this planner or these removable rings to the test. Are they going to be able to withstand proper daily use? You can see I've got this planner quite filled up. I don't really use the front pockets for any kind of deco, and then I do have this a Travelers Company vertical hourly schedule. I might switch to the inserts that are included with this planner. However, this has already chunked it up quite a lot, so that may not be such a great thing. I think actually I will just stick with the Traveler's Notebook. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens when I get this set up. I'll also show how I've come up with my best workaround solution to accommodate more than just one pen, how I've worked with not having a pocket, although in this planner I also don't have a pocket. I am using a zipper pouch for my little additional bits in here, so that's not so much of an issue for me. But yes, I will post that setup video soon, and then there'll be another video in about 6 months when this has either been really great or really bad. So until next time, I'm sorry this has turned into such a long video, but I really wanted to give this a full breakdown of exactly what you are getting here. So that is it, you guys. Until the next time, bye for now, planner friends. Bye.